Isn't it surprising how she suddenly comes back when you pull away, even after acting distant? This isn't random. It's a powerful shift in psychology, especially with today's independent women. Stick around, and I'll break down why creating space works like magic and makes her want you more than ever. Section 1. The power of psychological reactants. Modern women, especially those of this generation, are fiercely independent and often resistant to anything that threatens their autonomy. This independence is not just a personal preference, it's a mindset deeply ingrained by societal shifts where self-reliance and empowerment are celebrated. When a man, instead of chasing and overwhelming her with attention, pulls back and creates space, it activates a powerful psychological principle known as psychological reactants. This principle refers to the natural human response to reclaim freedom when it feels restricted. For the modern woman, who is accustomed to being in control of her social and romantic interactions, the sudden change in dynamics, the unexpected distance, catches her off guard. At first, she may react with confusion, questioning why the predictable flow of attention has shifted. But as the days pass and your absence becomes more noticeable, a transformation takes place. Her initial confusion morphs into curiosity, and this curiosity is where the true power lies. In a world where she has grown used to instant responses, notifications, and the gratification of constant validation, the absence of your presence disrupts the norm. This disruption makes her begin to question, why isn't he reaching out? Did I misread the situation? These questions lead her down a path of self-reflection, and, before she realizes it, a seed of attraction is planted. That attraction is built on intrigue and the realization that she may not be as in control as she once thought. The desire to understand why you stepped back drives her to re-engage. Section 2. The scarcity effect and why it works. In a time where attention is one of the most valued currencies, stepping back and giving a woman space creates an effect that is both subtle and profound: the scarcity effect. Modern women are no strangers to constant digital interaction. Every day, they receive a barrage of notifications, likes, comments, and DMs. These interactions create a bubble where validation is plentiful and often taken for granted. However, when you choose to withdraw from this constant interaction and remove yourself from the sea of noise, you position yourself as an exception. Scarcity is a cognitive bias that pushes people to place a higher value on what is limited or rare. By removing your presence and attention, you unknowingly transform yourself into a scarce commodity. And in a world where most men compete for her attention, your choice to create space sets you apart. This newfound rarity shifts her perception of you. While she might initially brush off your absence as a temporary distraction or ego move, as days turn into weeks, the reality sets in. The realization dawns that your silence isn't an act of neglect. It's an assertion of self-worth and independence. This makes her reflect on the kind of man who doesn't need to chase, which directly challenges the validation she is used to. Suddenly, she's thinking about you more than the men who flood her inbox with emojis and compliments. The scarcity you create by stepping back does more than just pique her interest. It creates an environment where she starts to reevaluate her feelings and the dynamic you both share. Instead of being just another man in her sphere, you become the outlier, the one who is not swayed by the urge to constantly seek her attention. This positions you as someone she needs to work for, flipping the script and making her see you in a new light. Section 3. The mirror of self-reflection. Another important aspect of giving a modern woman distance is that it acts as a mirror, forcing her to take a hard look at herself and the relationship. Most women in today's fast-paced, connected world don't often have the time or need to deeply reflect on their interactions and emotions. The space you create gives her a moment of pause. Without the continual reinforcement of your presence, she starts to question her own behavior, motives, and feelings. This period of reflection can be transformative, as it compels her to confront what she truly values and desires. When a woman no longer has the constant distraction of your messages and the assurance of your interest, she begins to feel an emotional gap. That gap triggers an important self-assessment. Why do I feel this way? Did I undervalue him? Am I ready to lose this connection? The answers she uncovers often lead to a deeper acknowledgement of what she stands to lose. The modern woman, conditioned by an environment that celebrates independence and often diminishes vulnerability, rarely admits when she misses someone or feels the need for them. But your strategic distance encourages her to bypass these societal scripts and come face to face with her own feelings. The mirror effect that distance creates is powerful because it's subtle yet effective. It doesn't involve confrontation or direct communication. It is her internal dialogue that drives this realization. She may start noticing that things she once overlooked, such as the thoughtful ways you engaged with her or the genuine conversations you shared, hold more value than she initially credited. This revelation shifts the balance in your favor, making her more likely to reach out, rekindle the connection, or show renewed interest. Section 4. Reinforcing your value without words. In relationships, actions often speak louder than words. By pulling back and creating distance, you communicate a message that no conversation or explanation could match. You are confident and secure enough to walk away. This silent reinforcement of your value is essential when dealing with the modern, hard-to-impress woman. She is used to grand gestures, persuasive texts, and dramatic efforts, but what she isn't used to is a man who understands his worth and doesn't need to chase approval. This kind of behavior not only intrigues her but also commands her respect. The reason is simple. Self-worth is magnetic. Women are naturally drawn to men who have their own lives, interests, and passions outside of the romantic dynamic. By showing that you're not afraid to step back and focus on yourself, you convey a powerful message. I'm not here to convince you of my value, I already know it. This creates an aura of confidence and stability that is rare in the modern dating scene, where many men are quick to seek validation and pursue relentlessly. Modern women are hard to impress because they've seen and experienced it all. They can tell the difference between genuine confidence and the desperate attempts to appear confident. Your distance shows that you're willing to let things unfold naturally without manipulating or forcing interactions. This subtle but impactful move shifts the dynamic in your favor, making her question why you're so different from the others. And in that questioning, she often finds herself drawn back to you, wanting to understand who you really are and why you're unaffected by her initial indifference. Section 5. The unexpected emotional response. Distance has an interesting way of pulling out emotions that may have been buried or unnoticed. Modern women, especially those who are strong and independent, often suppress emotions to maintain an image of control and resilience. When you create space, it disrupts this emotional equilibrium, and she may begin to feel emotions she wasn't prepared for. This response isn't immediate. It might take days or even weeks, but it eventually creeps in, subtly reminding her of your presence through your absence. In an environment where distractions are everywhere, a void is felt more profoundly than ever. Your absence acts like an echo chamber, amplifying thoughts and feelings she would typically push aside. These might be small moments, like hearing a song that reminds her of a conversation you had, or noticing something that she would have shared with you. Each reminder strengthens the pull and makes her more aware of what she is missing. Over time, these emotions build and become harder to ignore. The modern woman, who prides herself on being tough and emotionally self-sufficient, finds herself faced with a desire she didn't plan for, the desire to reconnect. The emotional response your distance elicits makes her feel vulnerable, and that vulnerability is what drives her to return. It's not about manipulation, it's about allowing the space for her to feel the absence of what was once there, giving her the chance to come back on her own terms with genuine interest. Section 6. The contrast effect. Standing out amidst the noise. In today's world, the competition for attention is fierce. From social media influencers to dating app matches, modern women are bombarded with attention from multiple directions. This consistent influx of validation creates a baseline expectation of how interactions should play out. Most men, hoping to catch her eye, resort to predictable behaviors, frequent texting, immediate responses, and constant displays of interest. This is where the contrast effect comes into play and sets you apart when you choose to create distance. The contrast effect is a psychological principle that explains how we perceive things in relation to what is around them. When you step back and stop feeding into the endless cycle of validation, you become the exception rather than the rule. Your absence becomes a stark contrast to the persistent presence of others, making you more memorable. She begins to realize that you're not like the men who flood her DMs or react to every post she makes. Instead, you become a standout figure in her mind, someone who doesn't conform to the usual pattern. This strategy doesn't just make her notice you, it makes her remember you. While the attention from others becomes white noise, your silence creates a moment of reflection. The contrast effect works in your favor because it highlights your unique approach, an approach that suggests you're secure, focused, and unbothered by the usual games. Over time, this perception evolves, turning her initial indifference into curiosity and, eventually, a desire to reconnect with the man who dared to be different. Section 7. The internal battle, rewriting her own narrative. When you step back and create distance, a subtle internal battle begins within the mind of a modern woman. Most women today are conditioned to expect immediate validation, often associating it with their worth and desirability. When that validation is removed, it creates a void, and the initial reaction might be frustration or confusion, but as time passes, this void leads to introspection. She starts to rewrite the narrative in her mind, asking deeper questions like, what did I miss? Was I wrong to assume he would always be there? This internal dialogue is crucial. The moment she begins to question herself and the role she played, she starts to shift from being a passive participant in the dynamic to an active one. Modern women are not used to being left in a position where they must initiate or reassess their behavior. By stepping back, you give her the space to reflect on her actions and the choices she made in response to your initial pursuit. During this phase, she might start to see things differently, remembering the meaningful conversations, your unique qualities, and the value you brought to her life. This is when she realizes that your attention was not a given, but a privilege. The realization that she may have undervalued your presence is powerful and often leads her to take action. The internal battle she experiences shifts the focus from you to her own emotions, making her more invested in reaching out and reconnecting. Section 8. The maturity test. Separating the genuine from the superficial. Giving a modern woman space serves another important purpose. It acts as a maturity test. Women who are truly ready for meaningful connections will respond differently to distance compared to those who are only interested in surface-level attention. This distinction is crucial for you as a high-value man. The modern dating landscape is full of quick flings and shallow interactions, but distance can reveal who is genuinely invested in you versus who is simply seeking validation. When you create distance, a mature woman will use that time to evaluate her feelings and understand the dynamics at play. She won't see your space as a game, but as an opportunity to assess what she wants. This response sets her apart from women who might become defensive or dismissive when they don't receive the expected amount of attention. The mature woman recognizes your value and respects the boundaries you've set. Instead of reacting with ego or frustration, she becomes introspective and appreciative of the fact that you're not chasing aimlessly. This shift not only highlights her emotional intelligence, but also deepens her respect for you. She sees that you're not afraid to step back when needed, showcasing your own maturity and control. This attracts her on a deeper level because it aligns with her desire for a partner who values himself enough to maintain balance and composure. The maturity test serves as a filter, allowing you to understand who is worth investing in further and who isn't ready for the depth of connection you're seeking. Section 9. The subconscious craving for mystery. Modern women, accustomed to being surrounded by predictable patterns, often crave an element of mystery. This isn't just about playing hard to get. It taps into a deeper psychological need for intrigue and novelty. When you create distance, you introduce an air of unpredictability that disrupts her expectations. She might have thought she understood you, your patterns, responses, and behavior, but your absence reshapes that image and builds a sense of mystery around you. All right, thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, give it a like and share your thoughts below. Don't forget to subscribe for more insights. Stay confident and keep growing.